Okay, good evening, ladies. Welcome to the first session of Coffee with Kofi. As my name is Kofi Simpson, and I've created Coffee with Kofi to have curated conversations. Now, today I've been tasked to speak in front of an all-woman crowd as the only man, and this has been an honor, and I feel like imposter, nervous, but very excited. I must say that I do feel comfortable in this space because I remember that when I was a 10-year-old boy, I saw my aunt was very unhappy in a marriage. And I said to her, why don't you just divorce this man? And she said to me, if I was to divorce this man, who would take care of my kids? Therefore, at that point in time, I was for the liberation and the liberation of women within the work context. I must fast forward. I went to university, and in my honors there, throughout my crazy mind, I just decided, let me organize a pageant amongst the universities in the Western Cape. That was at the time where varsity rugby became a thing. I found a women's event to integrate institutions. And I think that was the first sight. I work in HR. And HR predominantly is one of the most diverse work environments, dominated by women. And most of my life I've worked and reported with women. When I entered this organization, the first site that I saw was Suzanne Liedenberg, Shan van Osten, Nadia Verveer, and how they were able to command this environment, working in a male-dominated environment with developers and IT specialists. But I felt that whatever politics that was shielded, whatever conversations, I felt at place and protected. And I must be very honest, when I look at the people that I've reported to, I felt that women have added a lot of value. When you come to women with a challenge, there'll be empathy to say at the end of the conversation, what do you want me to do? How can I help you? In my experience of my male species, maybe there's a different view. But I feel that by being in this space, I can add a little bit of value within this context. So today we're going to talk about imposter syndrome. And I want to take a different angle in terms of how we speak about this and start from childhood in terms of where did we develop our belief system. Now, we live in a very diverse country. And if we're all honest, we are probably part of the 10% of the wealth of this country. And our clientele, with over 22 million clients, focuses on the unbankable. So I want to have this conversation around, let's understand what challenges that our everyday heroes have. I'm not a fan of looking at celebs and saying that celebs are heroes. I'm the type of person that believes that we can say that a domestic worker is someone that inspires us through the challenges that they've had in life. Now, a few weeks ago, I was at a bride, and I met this lady called Mpho. Mpho said, sometimes I realize that my manager triggers my childhood traumas. Now, we must understand that sometimes with the workplace, our upbringing has some form of a role to play in how we navigate. But one of the things that she also said was intriguing is that dating is becoming challenging. Because when I was dating this guy, he earned more than me. And as a black woman, I feel empowered and I earned more than him. And maybe that's something that we take for granted, understanding this diverse society that we're in. Now, as I said, I want to go back to childhood and for us to reflect on our childhood and the things that we, how we obviously grew up. Just setting the space today, I just want to make sure that we are speaking in a very psychological, safe environment. It's a safe space. No judgment. We make sure we listen to understand and not to fix. And everyone's experience is valid. And most importantly, courageous honesty. Growth begins at the end of our comfort zone. So let's all work together. The first question that I want to ask you all, what experiences do you think you are avoiding? Not all at once. What experience are you avoiding?
I think probably experiences that leave me overly vulnerable.
Overly vulnerable.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
During my icebreaker speech.
During your icebreaker speech. Anyone else?
anything that might remind me of something that I'm trying so hard to forget.
Anything that's... we have a doctor in here. Can you just help us understand what is the autonomic nervous system? What does it do to us?
The autonomic nervous system is the part of your brain that controls automatic processes. So
Okay.
things like digestion, breathing to a certain extent, things that you don't actively have to think about that your body does on your behalf.
Okay. And is there a part that works on how we behave and react to life experiences? Where does that fall within?
I mean, it could be part of the autonomic nervous system. Your nervous system is always a complex structure, so
Okay.
it is affected by all of the pathways that create it in some other way.
In
So
some
yes.
other way. Okay. Thank you very much, Doctor, for that. Has anyone heard of this phrase, a Karen? A Karen, when someone is a Karen.
A Karen is typically characterized as a white woman who what is the word? Complains
Okay.
about very mundane, everyday things, and usually unnecessary. In an American context,
In an American context.
which is very important.
Okay. I'm going to rephrase that, right? I'm going to say a person that feels self-assured that they're able to complain, stand up for their rights, and not necessarily care what the consequences is.
It's another way to look at
It's
it.
another way to look at it. I've craved this thing. Have you ever had anyone have something called a NOMSA? So I'm going to create this thing, NOMSA, right? And NOMSA is a character in my life, right? So NOMSA is my domestic worker, right? One day I was at work, my father was in the room. And she calls me and she says, your father's in the room, can you ask him to move? And I asked myself, but why are you asking me? Can't you just, ask him to move? And I had a conversation, I asked her, oh, how was your father growing up? She's like, my father was very, very strict. And that's an experience that maybe someone takes from home and goes into the work environment. And now we're living in a world where NOMSA or NOMSA's child could be managing my father or myself. Therefore, you feel like you do not have a right and a place in some environment because of what you were exposed to in the environments that you were in. Therefore, it makes it very complex in the modern day world of work. Well, now, when I go further, I have a few Airbnbs, and checkout is at 10 o'clock. Now, NOMSA has done very well. She's brought in her siblings. And one of the siblings locks, and if someone's there at 10 o'clock hasn't left, I'll get a call, the guest is there. There's an element of shyness to say you have to leave here at 10 o'clock, and to be very assertive of that. Now, the question I ask myself, is that an environmental thing? Is it a personality thing? And how does someone overcome that? Work environment, you've got to take your place and be assertive. So how do you take that part of you to feel comfortable in the work environment and engage? When I go further, because I've known since now working on my Airbnbs, this year, every year I increase her salary. And this year I forgot. And last week I just had a conversation, oh, by the way, I realized I didn't increase your salary. And she said, do you know what she said to me? I didn't want to worry you. She has a right to get a salary increase. And she's scared to say that because if she says that, I may choose not to work with her, which is my choice. Therefore, there's an element of fear and discomfort. Now, on the other hand, NOMSA has another sister, Lindy. And she was telling me, hi, Lindy lost a job because she was fighting with the boss. So those elements create a bit of discomfort when we are in the workplace because our childhood, to a certain degree, has a role to play in terms of where we are from a work perspective. I don't know if anyone has any questions or is clear on that aspect of it. So we all know what a NOMSA is, right? Sheila, can we define what a NOMSA is?
I guess somebody who feels disempowered
Okay.
to, I don't know, ask for what they want.
Okay.
Yeah.
Disempowered to feel that they have rights
Yeah.
and to feel comfortable. Even if I go back to NOMSA, the other day and this is a weird thing, right? I tried to get her to clean my house and the Airbnbs at the same time and give her more money. She was like, no, she brought her sisters in. And when she brings the sisters in, she's like, no, that one cleans better than me. Now imagine seeing that in the workplace. Imagine managing someone who you feel is more competent than you, whether or not you believe it or whether or not it is true. How far will you go if you're pushing other people in the work environment and feeling that you do not belong or you're not competent? You know, she even said the other day, you're cheating me. And if we use those kind of words in the work context, what does it mean? You've got to find a nice way to articulate it. Otherwise, you offend someone. Therefore, some people choose not to speak. And when they speak, we attack. And we feel uncomfortable in such an environment. I have another question that I would like to ask. If you go back to childhood, as we grow to become adults, many of us are living adult lives based on childhood stories. Now, I have a question. Whoever wants to answer. If you think back to childhood, what lies or what stories were you told? What did society tell you?
Men don't cry.
Men don't cry. I mean, I was a dark-skinned guy, and society told me I was ugly as a dark-skinned. Now, 30 years later, society is telling me a different story. Society's rules and norms keep changing all the time. Does anyone else want to share a lie they feel that, or a story that they were told? Yes.
But you have to have everything done by 30.
You have to have everything done by 30. You know? Stories from society, what message you grew up with? Confidence. What were you told? What do you believe in? Success. What were you told? And what do you believe success is? Ambition. What were you told? And what do you believe in? Speaking up. What were you told? And what do you believe in? Now the next question I'm going to ask. What lies do you tell yourself? I mean, there are some, please don't choose any of these, like, I'm not smart, they find out I don't belong, only got here by luck. Who am I? What lies do you tell yourself?
For me, it has to be just looking at the examples you gave there. Who am I to speak up, simply because of the way I was brought up. I was last born at home, and so I feel like I did not have a voice. A lot of things were decided for me. Maybe my parents knew I needed shoes, and they'll tell my older siblings, but none of them even bothered to ask, what color shoe do you want? What type of a shoe do you want? I was just given shoes, whether or not I liked them. I needed shoes and I had to take it. And so for me, it will be, who am I to speak up?
Who are you to speak up? Now you go into the work environment, and you need to take initiative, you need to be assertive, you need to think for yourself, and you need to think for other people.
And it becomes difficult.
It becomes difficult, and now you feel like you're an imposter and you don't believe, because you've never had the practice as a child.
Yeah.
So I hope you're getting what I'm saying around how childhood has a positive or negative impact in terms of how we grow up, and also how some behaviors happen in the work environment, and sometimes they need to be learning and unlearning. Does everyone had any questions or want to add anything at this point in time? Okay, now we're going to go to the crux of the meat. What is imposter syndrome? Imposter syndrome is a perceived experience of believing that you are not as competent as others perceive you to be, despite evidence of your accomplishments. Just checking, has that landed? Now, statistically, 70% of people experience imposter feelings. 58% of tech professionals feel like imposters, and 2 in 5 people believe that their success is due to luck. Just out of curiosity, who thinks their success is due to luck? So we all worked hard here. All of us worked hard. So we are the 3 of the 5. So now we're going to go and just look at the different types of imposter syndrome. Now the first one, we have the perfectionist. Sets impossible high standards and feels like failure when they short fall. I think that previously we've spoken about limiting beliefs and realizing that in order for us to speak here, Ashna, we don't have to be perfect, right? Perfectionist aspect of things. The superwoman pushes to work harder than everyone else to measure up. Because I guess in the work context, you've got to work twice as hard. The natural genius feels ashamed when something doesn't come easily or tries the first time. The soloist believes that asking for help reveals them as a fraud. The expert feels that they will never know enough of fears and being exposed as an experience. Just out of curiosity, who identifies with a perfectionist? You can identify more than who identifies with the superwoman and the superman. But we're all women here. The natural genius. All of them, the soloist. And the expert. The cost of self-doubt. Now, from a career perspective, turning down opportunities may not apply for promotions and stays invisible. Relationship withdraws from people pleasing, not showing your authentic self. Health, anxiety, burnout, chronic stress from overworked and proving yourself. From a voice perspective, silent in meetings, holding back ideas, and deferring to others. I hope we all understand and identify with the different aspects of things. Maybe I should have asked this question at the beginning, but I'm going to ask this now. Have you ever felt like you don't belong in the room?
Yeah.
Okay, some people feel like they've always belonged in the room. I have on many, many occasions. The question is, what held you back, or what holds people from speaking up? The fear of being judged, worrying about saying the wrong things. Some people don't speak in meetings, right? Feeling like others don't know me, and not wanting to take up the space. So we're having fierce conversations. What makes this conversation fierce? It is real, you show up as your authentic self. It is valuable, you say what needs to be said. It is courageous, you don't let the fear dictate your silence. And it's transformational. The conversation itself, it's in the relationship. Now the principles of fierce conversations: master the courage to integrate reality. Come from behind yourself and make it real. Be prepared to be now more than else. Take your thoughts and challenge today. Obey your instructions. Take responsibility for your emotional weight and let the silence do the heavy lifting. Does anyone have anything to say before I move on? The power of Susan Scott said this. When we stay silent, we lose the part of ourselves. Our ideas go unheard. Our growth stalls. When we speak up, we reclaim our voice, we model courage for others, and we create real conversation. Rewriting your narrative. So psychologists always say something and then say it in a different way, right? I'm not qualified. We can all repeat after me. The second part.
I am learning and growing every day.
I'll say the one. I got lucky. The next one, all of us.
My hard work created this opportunity.
The next one, I said, everyone else is smarter.
I bring a unique perspective.
Okay, so strategies for overcoming imposter syndrome. You gotta name it, share it, reframe it, provide evidence for. In other words, keep a record of your wins, feedback, and accomplishments and facts. Counter fear. The other day, Timber from another Toastmasters club came and spoke to us about cognitive distortions and how we distort the reality in terms of what we see. The next aspect is celebrate it, your own achievement, you've earned it. Show up by giving credit. Next one, model it. So when you show up vulnerable, you give others permission to do the same. Building a culture of belonging. Okay, I'm just going to, in this time, I'm just going to go through one by one. Not everything, I'm just going to go through heading. Listen without fixing, normalize vulnerability, celebrate growth, and challenge the narrative. When someone dismisses their own success, help them to see the truth. So, key takeaways that I'd like you guys to take from today is imposter syndrome is universal. And you are not the only one feeling it. The stories that we were told are not always the stories we have to keep. Fierce conversation starts the conversation you have with yourself. Speaking up is an act of courage, not perfection. You belong in every room you walk into. So let's just say that. I belong
in every room I walk into.
Cool. So thank you all for taking the time to listen to this coffee session. Remember, let's keep the conversation going. You've been assigned to this mountain to show that others that it can be. Thank you, fellow Toastmasters and ladies, for taking the time.